You're tuned in to Around the Lens, the internet's only live streaming roundtable discussion podcast, featuring Zach Roberts, Ron Hamilton, Travis Keys, and your host, David J. Murphy. Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 180, recording on this, not Monday, we normally record it, on this Sunday, June 23rd. We're recording on this day for a very special reason, which we'll go into in just a minute. But before we do that, let me introduce my co-host and only other panelist on tonight's show, Mr. Travis Keys. Hello, Travis.
What is going on this special Sunday evening?
I know, right? It's very special. Just you, me. It's kind of intimate, you know? Just the two of us. Just the two of us. You and I. Anyways, yes, we're doing this on a Sunday. It's not our normal day. If you're tuning in, then congratulations, you found us live. I didn't do any promotion of this show. Ultimately, this is going to be the last show that we do in the United States, or at least I do in the United States. This time next week, I'll be in Korea, so doing the show from there, and we're going to see how that goes. Recording at 4 or publishing at 4 p.m. I do in the United States. Publishing at 4 p.m. Eastern, so be sure to tune in on Mondays at 4 if you want to watch the show live, as opposed to our normally scheduled time of 9 p.m. Anyways, that's sort of just the general housekeeping. You know, as always, you can support the show. Go to patreon.com/aroundthelens. We don't have any other guests on this evening or co-hosts, but, Travis and I are going to do our very best to give you the best show possible. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of things going on, a lot of different topics. And so I think hopefully you'll find it interesting, and we'll see how this format goes. And like I said, this isn't, the norm. If you're just tuning in for the first time, normally there's about 3 to 4 of us, sometimes more on the show per week. I know we've gotten some new listeners recently. I was on a podcast, the Show Me podcast. It was a great opportunity and experience to be on another show and talk about my life and my work and also the work of others. I discussed Jim Knockway for part of the show, and that was pretty neat. Talked about the podcast a little bit. So if you're tuning in from him, or if you're just hearing a show for the first time, we know we talk about visual journalism as a general topic, and we like to have guests on. So if that's something that sounds like something interesting to you, if you're in the visual journalism career field, let us know. We'll be happy to have you on. But before we get into our topics this evening, let me throw it over to you, Travis. How have you been? How's your week been?
It's been, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but finally I have a little time to breathe, which is nice, and catch up with some stuff like that, which is good. So, good. It's good.
What any major big projects that you've been working on the last week that are interesting that you can reveal or talk about? Any cool shoots or anything like that?
I did a lot of some fundraiser shoots and some raising money. I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters. They did their big casino jazz night and had some great live performances and raised a bunch of money for the kids. And that was a fun thing that I do each year, and it's a really good cause. Then planning some stuff for APA, which is American Photographic Artists. I'm going to be doing a workshop, hopefully, with Profoto and Sony. Play with some new gear, the A1X and the Profoto B10 and the B10 Plus. So, I have the A1X now, and I will be getting either the B10 or the B10 Plus to add to my kit as well soon.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty awesome. I like that organization you mentioned, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Big Casino Jazz. That's a good organization. That's cool. So, always good to get the new equipment. I was at my high school reunion this past weekend, so that was my big shoot, I guess you could say. I was kind of covering it. I'm sort of the pseudo historian for our class now, because I made not a documentary but a slideshow for presentation. So that was fun. I did the one last decade.
Were you taking pictures when you were in high school? Did you have stuff of that, or are you just kind of collecting stuff?
What's funny is, no, I had zero interest in photography in high school. I knew of the yearbook, and the yearbook committee and the fact that people took pictures, but the level of my experience with photography back then was a point and shoot camera. And so the idea that I would ever be someone interested in photography back in high school never would have occurred to me. But now, I'm the pseudo historian slash class photographer. And it was really an awesome experience going back and meeting everybody again. I enjoyed my 10-year reunion, and I enjoyed this reunion. I enjoy, re-engaging with folks I knew in high school. These weren't all people like I necessarily was great friends with back then, but I can definitely see them as friends now, and happy to get together with them. Have you been to any of your high school reunions by chance?
No, I actually haven't. And I went to a boarding school, and I went to two different boarding schools, so it's I could graduated from one. But I've seen some people from that, and certainly I haven't gone back to any college reunions yet. And it was a huge college, NYU.
Right.
But, they certainly send me a letter every other week about asking for money.
Of course, I get the same thing from Syracuse. They want them money.
We got a couple of listeners. Big shout out to Larry and Justin, who are both saying hi on the line.
All right, great. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome. Thank you for watching and tuning into this very special off night episode. Who knows? Maybe Sunday is the night we should do the show, huh?
It's a nice night, Sunday nights. Yeah.
Are you more free Sunday? Because I know we've talked about this, but obviously Saturday you're very busy. But what's that?
I have no regularity to
no regularity, of course. So I just happen to get lucky and get you on a quieter day.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. I was just shooting pictures and kind of doing the photo documentation thing. Did some video. I'll put together a little video for my reunion. Perhaps I'll share it with the larger public. I don't know. We just been sharing things on our Facebook group and stuff like that internally because we're pretty much the only ones who care about this sort of stuff. But it was pretty neat to put together. And I put together a video last time because when I was learning video, and this is sort of think of this show as sort of we're kind of going back to basics a little bit, right? We'll be talking about how to get kind of a break into the industry and stuff like that. So we're going to go kind of a little bit more general with some of the topics, but I wanted to talk a little bit about video, right? So I do video, and I had no experience in video before I started doing it, right? No one taught me how to do video. I had to learn it all on my own: video editing, video shooting, everything. And one of the ways that I forced myself to learn the craft was to create something that I wanted. So this was, right at the heart of, YouTube starting up. So I created my own YouTube show, which was essentially a vlog. Before vlogs were like kind of a thing, it was a vlog, but it was just more like video B-roll with music over it. So there wasn't any real substance to it. It was just really an editing exercise for me. Anyways, I did one episode. I called it the Dave Murphy Show. It was about my reunion. And so it was just, me filming. So again, all that encouraged me to film, and I'll do the same thing with this reunion because I think people enjoy that and get a kick out of it. But yeah, I did the slideshow. That was an ordeal, let me tell you. Just really, just trying to get people to give me content, for the show.
Time consuming, and people don't realize how much time you have to put into it.
Oh God, so much. Like I think I put about 30 to 40 hours into the slideshow. That's tracking down people, trying to get their information, trying to find photos. I tried to develop this memory challenge thing where I said, okay, give just point the selfie camera at yourself, talk to the selfie camera, and give me like 60 seconds your favorite memory from high school, right?
Right.
And I think I got three people who gave me support. Two other people, I actually interviewed them in person and got their info. But from just trying to solicit the group, 3 people responded. So a little bit lower turnout than I would have liked, but I still turned what I had into a product because I wanted to make sure that I gave the people who did turn stuff in, their light to shine, their moment to shine, and thank them for supporting it. But that was an idea I had. I thought making it a challenge would encourage other people, like the peer pressure aspect of it. If people are willing to dump a bucket of ice on their head after being challenged, then why not talk to the camera, reveal, make yourself slightly vulnerable for 1 minute, but no, not so much. And even then at the event, I tried to get people to give me a minute of their time to talk about high school, but yeah, no.
Live and learn.
Yeah, I know, right? People are pretty shy for the most part. Surprising. By the way, did you ever do the ice bucket challenge or any of those challenges?
No, I never poured the ice bucket challenge over my, that cold water over my head. Not that I wouldn't have, but just didn't didn't come up.
Nope, nobody ever challenged me.
Yeah, I always got the photography challenge. Oh, 10 pictures, 10 black and whites over 5 days, or something like that. Those are the challenges I always got.
I know,
Seem
right?
like into.
Oh man. Well, we got an awesome show, so we're gonna get right into
To it, right?
what's that? Let's get right into it, man. Our first topic this evening comes from the news, of course. There was a recent death of a photojournalist. Oh, I'm sorry, not a photojournalist, landscape photographer. He died while essentially it was an accident, and I want to talk about what do we do to prevent ourselves from falling prey to accidents while we're out in the field doing our job, because I mean it can happen. I worked in New York City for many years doing documentation, doing street photography, doing all kinds of things like that, and a lot of that was spent on a bike, trying to bike around the city or just trying to navigate around and not get hit by cars and stuff like that. It's something you got to be aware of. It's very easy, I think, to put that camera up to your face and lose your bearings and lose your perspective of what's going on around you, because you get so wrapped up in trying to capture the image, and you can get yourself in real big trouble like that. And I just want to the story is about an Australian landscape photographer, a Nikon ambassador, Dale Sharp. He died at 36. It was as a roadside accident. He was driving on a highway through Kansas. It was a little past midnight on June 20th when he struck a deer, leaving his vehicle disabled. Sharp sought the safety at the side of the road.
It was very freaky. I mean, this poor guy. You're doing something that you love, absolutely.
Right, absolutely.
And it's like you see all these great stuntmen that do all these stunts for movies and stuff like that. That actually don't die doing the stunts, but die doing something like riding a motorcycle or something like that. That's sort of what happened to Dale, who's an amazing photographer, and he had struck this deer and was on the side of the road, and his car was smoking a little bit, and he had walked over to the side. Another car was coming down, only saw the car at the last minute, kind of swerved at the last minute.
Yeah.
And Dale was jumping out of the way and jumped into a ditch, basically.
Yeah.
And the car went into that same ditch, and
jeez.
Fortunately, he was brought to the hospital, but succumbed to his wounds hours later. But it's a shame that that this happened. Not even doing photography, but it's something I think we need to be extremely aware of our situations, because what you said is so true. It's like there's so many times that we just put up that camera to our eyes and we forget, just stepping back. You could step into someone or step off of something or step, we get so wrapped up in taking that picture that sometimes we're not aware of what's going on around us at the same time, and that's what can be dangerous for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, terrible loss. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the pictures featured here on the site, and it's just really beautiful imagery. The one with I think the lightning over the field.
I mean, you would think like he was killed in a storm chasing or something like that. But it was tragic.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like he should have been struck by lightning. That's the way he probably would have wanted to go. I don't think he would have wanted to go that way. But I mean, if any of us, I think, in our craft, I think would rather do it,
as they say,
than some freak accident that is just completely tragic and unnecessary. Obviously, again, going to this specific case, this has nothing to do with doing your job and doing the work. Obviously, like you said, he wasn't dying on the job, but with something like this, and this is a good reminder for all of us, have some road flares, have some of those little pop-up reflector triangles. If your car is disabled, set that stuff up.
Little LED lights that flash bright, magnets that you can throw to the side of your car and stuff like that. But the problem is, especially with the cars, is you need people to start getting aware, hundreds of feet prior even to your car.
Right. No, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know how, from the time that his car was struck to the time that he got struck, or the time he struck a deer, the time he pulled over and whatnot, how much it could have been something where he just stepped out of his car. But I mean, I have to imagine it being midnight, it being Kansas. This is probably like a very small road with very little illumination, probably little, little moonlight and no street lights, and it's just it just comes out of nowhere. I mean, I've been driving in those situations, and sometimes, yeah, I mean, if you're not paying 100% attention all the time, a car could pop out at you, and it's tough. But maybe next time, pull out the flash, just flash people all the time with your flash. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't one of those. You always see that story every once or twice a year that it was a train or something shooting on the train tracks.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's terrible. Just like stay off active tracks.
Yeah. No. I mean, obviously, his death has nothing tied with specifically, dying while doing the job, but specifically. No, it's the topic, but what is you're out there, you shoot a lot in the city, right? I mean, the city's a wonderful place, but again, what do you do? Do you have any sort of have you ever been in any situation where perhaps it was there was an element of danger to it, like you feared you could have gotten maybe in an accident, or what do you do to prevent yourself from getting in a situation where you might be in an accident?
I think, well, I mean, a lot of time you're just shooting by yourself, so the best thing you can do is just be aware of your circumstances and
right.
what's going on around you. You'll always have to, if you're going to take a step back to shoot something, take your eye off the camera and look behind you and see. I've had too many times where I've stepped backwards into someone or something like that.
Right.
Trying to just get back a little bit quickly to capture the photo, but. Especially if you're near a dangerous situation, or you're near an edge, or you're near, traffic or something like that, you plant yourself in a safe spot, and before you move, you have to look. You can't just do something like that. And it depends what type of stuff you're shooting. We certainly have a lot of our journalist friends that shoot, in riots or certain situations. That's a totally type of thing. Certainly shot some friends that have been online here in dangerous buildings and stuff like that, or abandoned buildings, and that's a whole different kind of danger, through floors and kinds of mess and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of stuff. Just really have to pay conscious, and if you're shooting with someone, have them looking for you on your back as well. So it's always good if you're with someone to have that team kind of thing to try to help each other.
100%, 100%. And I was thinking of the instances where I've been in sort of situations where I could have been hurt, and like you said, it's 100% situational awareness. It's all about being aware of your surroundings. There was one time I was photographing the parade, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, and I was following the floats all the way until the sort of main show center where they stop and they do little performances and stuff. And of course, right. I'm focused on trying to get awesome photographs of whoever was the celebrity du jour at the time. And I didn't notice they have a camera that's on a big boom arm, right, that goes up and down to get shots. And thankfully, someone saw me and pulled me out of the way, but I was right under the camera boom arm. If that thing had gone down, it would knock me the heck out. Who knows? It could have killed me. That was me not paying attention.
And they're not supposed to come down like that. You would have had a lawsuit on that one. But.
Oh, really? Jeez.
Yeah.
Too bad. I missed my opportunity.
Especially when you weren't supposed to be in, which is possible.
Well, I had a press pass. I was, permitted to shoot the parade. So, and then there was another time.
That year when the floats got away. Remember?
The floats got away? You mean the ones that flew away?
No, the high winds started taking down, and the floats went into the lampposts and stuff like that. And
right.
So that's why every year they look at the wind things, and if the winds are too high, they'll cancel the floats.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, we always see I think Sonic one year got knocked out, and it makes for good memes and good fun when you're not there, for sure. And then there was another time I was in the city, and I did a lot of biking throughout New York City. Obviously, it's an easy way to get around when you don't have a car. I would actually take my bike on the metro and take the bike into the city and do all my biking around the city. And that I did a lot of stupid stuff in traffic on my bike, like weaving in and out of traffic, not using bike lanes, going against the flow of traffic. Like my main goal was getting to where I needed to be in the time I needed to get there, not like obeying proper bike laws or whatever.
Right.
And I never there was a couple close calls, where I was very close to vehicles But one time, and I don't know why I did this, but my phone rang while I was on the bike, and I was going downhill at a slight grade, and I thought, oh, I can answer my phone while on the bike. No, no, I shouldn't have done that. I went head over heels over the front.
It only takes a split second to make a mistake
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh, yeah, it was. And I had my camera bag on me, and like
Uh,
went over the handle. What is it called? A header, I guess, when you go over the handlebars or something.
what it is? A header. A
Yeah,
header. Yes,
yeah.
taking a header. Absolutely. Heather.
Um,
It's a movie. Heathers.
but no, thankfully I had my helmet on. I always wore my helmet because and I had my camera bag on my back, so that helped break my fall a little bit. But still like, my gear was all strewn about. Thankfully, New York City, New Yorkers being a nice people, they don't get the credit for it, but they are nice.
Yeah.
A bunch of them came to my aid and asked me how I was doing and helped me up and got me reset and everything like that. And I was no worse for the wear.
I'm always so embarrassed that I'm like, oh, I'm fine, and then I'll hobble off.
That's right. Bones are sticking out of your skin. Be like, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm totally fine. Totally fine.
Don't mind me. I know in the past, Zach has talked about his experiences shooting protests and stuff like that. And, he always talks about, making sure that you're properly kitted up. You have gloves on, you have helmet, flak jacket, whatever you need. Because, protests, they can go from peaceful to violent in a split second. And, in the heat of things, it doesn't matter if you're necessarily a protester or a journalist or a photojournalist or something. You can get caught up in that and get injured just as easily. But I'd love to know what kind of injuries and dangers Ron faces in Hawaii, but I guess we'll have to save that for another show.
There's times when it rains.
Oh, yeah. Or sunburn. Probably sunburn,
Yeah, lots of
Or,
sun.
or lava or volcano eruptions. That's the only thing I can think of that would affect him.
Yeah.
But, anyways, be safe out there. If you have any instances where you've gotten into an accident or, how you prevent yourself from getting accidents while you work, let us know. Share it in the comments down below.
We did get a comment about gear, about podcast setup, and especially let's see, Larry says your pod setup, especially the camera and lighting is looking really good.
Oh, great.
Larry, that's a Sony
That's
A7.
right.
And the lighting is my Luxury lights, which are multicolor LEDs, which I use to light myself up. So that's how I'm lit up today, and that's why the camera looks good too. My little
Nice.
Sony camera. Thanks for asking.
Yes, Travis definitely goes above and beyond with regard to lighting and setup. Me, I'm lit by a ceiling light in an empty bedroom
You're always on the go.
with my webcam, so I do not have my standard setup tonight. Once I get to Korea and get set up, I'll make sure to set up all the cameras and lights and action and stuff like that. But yeah, Sony, Travis, you're killing it as always. So good job on that.
I'm trying to up the game.
That's right.
It's tough. It's like you've been doing this for a while though, and it's like last week. I know your computer went down, and I hear you have a new computer, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But it's me taking over. I haven't quite completed the pod studio, and we had that, obviously learning about audio and stuff like that. And I had quite an issue with my audio and looping and stuff like that. Luckily,
Right.
with the audio, which we had some trouble with that. But it's you've been doing this for a long time and with very little incidents. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard about it from some of you all. You contacted me, you let me know about last week's episode, and it was not up to the standard, and I apologize for that. Obviously we were dealing with a lot of external circumstances. Travis was doing his best on his end, and ultimately it was stuff out of my hand. I'll give you a little background for the people who may not know. What happened was my computer went down, essentially. The battery was expanding, and it had to be taken into the Apple store to get fixed. And so that's why I'm using a new computer right now. I've actually got the new 2019 8-core MacBook Pro, very speedy. So I'm using that right now. Lots of fancy features, very fast. But yeah, my old Mac, again, had to be repaired, and they did not have it done in time. And then, again, like I said, Travis made a valiant effort to make everything work on his end, and we'll eventually, I think, get everything working on his end because Travis, is someone I rely on to help run the show, especially if I'm not around. So we're working through that, but again, I kind of got back to the status quo for this week, and we'll see how things go from here. But I'm trying to make sure that we provide a quality product to all of you every week, especially those of you who provide us support on Patreon. I'll make sure that we're giving you a quality product and something you enjoy. So again, if we're never not living up to that expectation, let us know. I've gotten a lot of great feedback and comments from those who supplied stuff to the book contest, which, by the way, I want to give Tim Floyd a shout out and congratulate him for winning the book. So that book, if it's not already there, should be on its way to your destination. Please let us know when you get the book and maybe take a selfie with it or something like that. We'll post it onto the Facebook page. And as I told Tim, pay it forward. I think the book has an important message and it deserves to be seen by as many people as possible. So, I read it, I looked at the pictures, and now, somebody else will do it. And, I told him, pass it along to someone else who might enjoy that stuff.
That's awesome.
But, so my setup is a little bit bare bones today. But Travis looking awesome as always.
Still making it happen. That's right. What's important.
I need to get that.
Keeping us true.
I need to get a fancy LED light behind me so I can make my background any color I want.
I know. I love that I can change the colors and all that. It's very exciting. I'll do color requests. People want a different background.
Have it just like rotate all the time. That'll irritate people.
Like, what's going on there?
If we can get you, me, Zach, and Ron to all have different colors and we can color coordinate and different backdrops.
Today I'm gonna go blue.
That's right.
Fuchsia.
Have the color reflect the mood.
Exactly.
Travis, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the quotes. I'm going to take care of one thing really quick, and I'll jump right back.
So, the one thing we wanted to kind of go into was one of the basically your favorite photographer quotes. And there's so many inspirational quotes out there that photographers have had that have motivated us. And I remember one that I think it was Brazzi, and he said, if you want to be a better photographer, stand in front of more interesting stuff. And for me, that was one of the best quotes. It was just not only humorous, but you have to make your subjects and what you're shooting not only inspiring, but they have to be inspiring. So it's important to capture stuff in front of you that. And that quote kind of lives with me. It's like, it's like, all right, what am I going to go shoot today? How am I going to make it? And why am I shooting it, first of all? And what am I going to do to make it exciting, or is it exciting? And I think for me, that was a kind of a cool quote. And I think these quotes are great stepping stones, just like, it's that daily motivations and stuff like that. Just look at one and check it out, and kind of incorporate that into your work, or look at that person's work and why would he say that? And there's a great kind of way to build that into your model of what you're going to do next, and how to get inspired, because we certainly all get inspired by great art and great other photographers. And how about you? Was there one that kind of stuck out to you, a quote that you loved and then you kind of keep going back to?
Well, before I say that, I just want to know, because I missed it, which quote were you saying? What was your quote?
It was, if you want to be a better photographer, stand in front of more interesting stuff.
I like that. That's a good one. Yeah. I like this one. Anna Leibovitz said here, a thing that you see in my pictures that I was not afraid to fall in love with these people. And I think that's a great one, saying, not saying you have to, love your subjects, but really fall in love with what you're photographing, believe in it. Because if you don't enjoy what you're shooting, if you aren't fully invested in it, then it's going to show. It's going to result in poor quality work. Really just get into your work. And I like that quote from her.
I've read that one so many times, and I couldn't agree more with it. And I'll even be on shoots and I'll say, you're my photo crush. Today you are my photo crush, and I have fallen in love with you, and it's all about you today. And I think you have to. I mean, I think it's so important to fall in love with what you're shooting, and have that connection, and want to show it in a way that is the way you see it. And that's why you fall in love with things.
Well, yeah, I mean, you need to be fully invested in your work and show that to the person, even whether or not they pay you and it's something you're doing for money, or whether it's something you're doing for fun or for free. You have to make sure that you're fully invested in what you're doing, because it's going to show up, and you want to show that work off to your people, to your portfolio and stuff. So you want to make sure that that's good. You want to also give that person a good product. Even if it's doing something you're doing for a friend or you're doing for the fun of it, you want to give that person what you shot and show them what it does. So yeah, absolutely, take care of what you do. Let's see here. I love this one. Giles Perez says, "I don't trust words. I trust pictures." That's a very important thing. Although in this day and age, can you really trust pictures? Here's another one. Jean-Luc Godard. Photography is truth. It's tough because obviously Photoshop, but even nowadays, video, deep fakes, all these other things are making video even harder to believe. It's a whole new world there, so I think it goes into that. But definitely, I think for the most part, what we produce and the content that's going out there in the photojournalism is trustworthy, and that's great. Are there any quotes, or perhaps do you have a quote, Travis, or a motto or something that you live by?
Definitely one that I kind of always go is, and certainly when people ask me what the best advice you can give to photographers, and one that I'm always kind of quoted saying is, if you don't wake up every day loving, wanting to do it without explanation, go find something that does make you want to do that. So for me, that's the most important thing in photography, is that I every day I re-fall in love with photography and try and push myself to do something new and different, or expand myself, or learn more. It's like, and the more you learn, the more you love, and the more you love, the more you realize you need to learn more, and the more it's just an endless circle. But every day I get up and do it, and keep wanting to learn more, and keep pushing myself to do it. So I haven't myself on it yet.
And then you mentioned it, I think, during the other interview you did in the 3.0 Flash show, which is of course, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, but I never agreed with that. I'm like,
oh yeah, you disagreed with that. That's right. You're still working.
Yeah, you're going to work twice as hard.
Yeah, that's right.
The only difference is you love doing it.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, you disagreed with that statement.
Yeah. There was a good quote. There is only you and your camera. The limitations in your photography are in yourself. For what we see is what we are.
Yeah,
that one's kind of deep.
Absolutely. I like this one here. Once photography enters your bloodstream, it's like a disease. That's right. I have late stage photojournalism, so it's terminal, unfortunately. But it results in some good side effects.
Right.
I have a quote that I made up, and you feel free to use it, but make sure you quote me whenever you say it. It's sort of an adage / motto, and it's very simple, and it's kind of like obvious when you think about it, but I like to just remind myself of it, is that anything that can be done better. So it always reminds me to try and do better and be better, and not settle, and try and do the best I possibly can. And I take that adage with me when I do my photojournalism or my videography, is that, am I doing the best possible work I can? And if I'm not, why am I not? And ultimately, if you're not fully invested in what you're doing and you're producing crap work, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it, So
we got one from someone online. Let's see. Of what use are lens and light to those who lack mind and sight? Anonymous.
Who said that one?
It says anonymous, but it was Justin Farisi is the one that put it up online. But I guess there's no one actually credited to it, so we're not sure who actually said it. We have to Google and figure that out. But it may be one of those great ones that no one has been able to track, but always remembers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That anonymous, I tell you.
He
or she is done. Very insightful. Very insightful. Awesome. Well, I definitely recommend anybody, go check out this website with all these quotes on it. Let us know which quote you like, either from this website or a quote that you've heard from your time doing the work, whether it relates to photography, videography, or just an inspiring quote. I want to know what you think. Throw it out in the comments below.
Made a light bulb go off. There's always one you read like, yes, I needed that one.
Absolutely.
Why you needed that one?
I've always tried to do the quote of the day thing wherever I worked, and I get about 3 days into that before I abandon it, and either forget to do it or just I don't have time. And but I'd love to do more quotes.
Definitely good ones.
But let's go ahead and move on to our final topic this evening, and really our main point of discussion, which we'll close out the show with, is essentially again breaking in. So. I know there's a lot of people who listen to the show are more, beginners or intermediates and stuff like that, or maybe people who, they do this stuff on the side for the fun of it, maybe on the tertiary, and they want to know how to become a resource for maybe like a website or a newspaper or an agency or something like that. They have the desire and drive to create content, but they're not sure how to get that content to potential clients. So let's start with you, Travis. How did you break into the industry?
I have a long story of how I actually broke in, but the short version is I was doing a lot of things in my life that I thought I wanted to do, from owning nightclubs and bars and working in film and TV. And one day I kind of just said I want to quit it all, and found photography, or it found me, and that changed my life. But to kind of break into it was a very tough thing. And, it takes a constant drive. It takes a constant doing your homework and due diligence of reading and reaching out to people. I mean, if you expect the phone to ring, it's just not going to. You have to kind of reach out there and make it happen, and sometimes do some stuff you don't want to do. And like I said, I started really shooting a lot of stuff and getting noticed because I was shooting the one thing I didn't want to shoot ever, and that was a red carpet. These where you have 50 other photographers trying to get one shot of one celebrity or something like that, and I just didn't want to do it. And I kind of figure out, how am I going to make this different, or how am I going to make this work for me where I'm not, feeling that pit in my stomach of trying to call out and get. So I would just walk to the end of the line and wait for the celebrity to come down and say, hey, do you mind if I get this one shot? And I would get a shot that was so different than everyone else's that suddenly the PR people and management people started contacting me outside the next day, like, how did you get this shot the next day? Like, we want to hire you directly. So by doing one thing that I didn't want to do, led me into a lot of stuff that I do now. So really kind of reach out and make the best of what you do. And if you're looking to kind of do stuff like if you love gear, and you love certain gear, then like what I did, my love of Sony, I started an online Sony private network group that now I have most of the Sony artisans and Sony creatives and Sony people that use Sony. My love of that created something, and now I do a lot with Sony as well. So I mean, around them all the time, and get to do stuff with them, and it's a wonderful symbiotic relationship. And you have to kind of create these moments, and what's important, and it's so important to work. You have to work. There's no easy answer. It's work.
There's no shortcuts. You have to pick up a camera and press the button. As professional button pressers, as I've been told we're called, by some people. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was. I don't have the standard story because I learned my craft through the military. So in terms of breaking in, if you want to go that route, I mean, the military provides a great opportunity to teach you, how to do the craft, and gives you a lot of great skills that you can use to apply towards post-military type careers. I took my experience when I left the military initially to go to New York City and try and find work there. So I owed, my dedication while I was in the military, working extremely hard to, produce the best quality content I could, and also producing content on the side. It's like one thing, I see, and I see this a lot in, people who work for me, is, doing the, not the minimum, right, but doing doing your job, right, and that's perfectly commendable. If you're doing your job and doing it right, that's great. But if it's something you want to do, in the after the Marine Corps, after any sort of military service, you got to go above and beyond. You have to take that extra special step to show and try and experiment and do things, in your free time, to show that this is something that you really love. And it'll show, like we talked about earlier, it'll show up in your work, and it'll make for you a stronger portfolio. And then, of course, getting your portfolio looked at a lot by other people, getting people to tear down your work so you can become better. Because if you're only ever just showing your stuff on Facebook or online, or your choir audiences, as we call them, you'll never grow, because you'll only get positive reinforcement, and you can't grow with positive reinforcement all the time. You need that negative, like, that's a good one, but this photography is boring. You're shooting all this stuff, everything's center. It's like, where's the moment? Where's the lighting? This is, you miss that. Oh, it's out of focus. All this stuff you need to be told, and that's what's so great about portfolio reviews. We've talked about that before. If you ever get a chance to do that, go to some place where you can get a portfolio, or you have someone with a bit more experience look at your work, or just even have your peers look at your work and give you their honest feedback. But I would say, for me, when I left the Marine Corps, I was looking for work, and the way I found it was really just, I mean, looking what kind of job opportunities were available, applying, looking on Craigslist, looking on different places. Another thing you can do, and I've heard this asked before, like for instance, let's say there's a newspaper in the area, and I want to, pitch myself to them. I don't know of a single news entity that exists, especially at the local level, that won't at least have a way for you to submit your work to them, for them to review, like an email address or something like that. It doesn't guarantee you'll get published, and in some cases, it doesn't even guarantee you'll get paid. I would highly recommend not working or supporting any organization that comes, especially if it's like a corporate entity, especially like a news organization. Don't give them your work for free. Definitely show them your stuff, but always ask for what's the day rate. It may be something small and tiny. It may be $10, $15, or something, or $25. I think when I worked for a newspaper in Queens when I was living in New York City, I think they were giving like $10 for a black and white shot that was inside, and then I think $25 for a cover shot or in color. So it was very small. It wasn't a lot it wasn't enough for me to make a living, but it allowed me to at least get published. And they love my work, and I love giving them my work. But look for those outlets. Find the outlets in your local area and provide them your content. Show them what you can do, and if they like it, they're going to come to you and want more of it. And if they're a news organization, find out what people care about in the news. If you're covering the dog park, that might be nice for the feature hunting type shots, but you might want to go where the news is and kind of get show them and prove to them that you can be an asset and be able to back up your game. Don't give them amateur work. Give them work that shows that you're a professional, or at least shows that you have that potential, because they'll see the potential in your work. If they want to cultivate that, they will. And then I did a little bit of agency work, and that was sort of similar where, I applied for a job that I found, and it was for an agency, and they hired me, and I worked for them as a freelancer. And that's what you'll find a lot too, is there's very few, or at least I haven't seen them, staff positions on agencies. They want freelancers, and know that if you're going to be a freelancer for an agency, the split that I've seen, at least starting out, is 50-50. So your agency is going to get 50 and you're going to get 50. There might be more negotiation, room for when you've been with the agency for a couple of years and you've proven to them that you're an asset. But for the most part, that's the typical deal that you get. And that's just a really matter of looking out there and seeing, who's hiring, and again, there's nothing wrong with cold calling. I'm sure Travis, you've done your fair share of just reaching out to people and seeing if they wanted your work, or if you wanted to work with you. And that's one of the things you have to be able to do, is just have your elevator pitch and be able to sell yourself on short notice, whether it be on a cell phone, exactly, or via email or something like that. Get in and out quickly. Have a strong portfolio that you can point people towards, and then of course it's a lot of luck and hoping, and maybe you'll get selected, but there's no guaranteed right path. But you talked a little bit about it. You decided to go the route you did, and you worked really hard. But was there any specific advice you can give about breaking in, or do you work for contribute to agencies? I can't remember if you do or not.
I definitely shot, but a lot of my work is either commissioned or used because of an event or something like that, news media and stuff like that, for shooting big events and stuff like that, or I'm hired to shoot specific stuff. Always refine your own unique voice in your work, but the most important thing also is you have to keep networking. You have to. I can't tell you how many great photographers there are out there, and why does one get hired over the other? And even if some that are not as talented as the other photographer get more work, it's because of your attitude, the way you always respond to people, your drive. Networking is so important, because if people remember you, like, oh, who can I recommend? It's going to be you, because you did the right thing. If you show up with the right attitude, the attitude is so important.
100%.
Some work, it's like, if there's two talented people and one of them, even if he's less talented or a little less talented, but he always shows up on time, he's always a pleasure to work with, always stays later, that's the one you're going to call. That's the one that's going to get the work. That's the one that's going to, that will constantly be on the minds of the people for recommendations. So it's really important to present yourself and just follow through on everything. If you say you're going to deliver something, deliver it early or deliver it on time. Don't deliver it late. Don't show up late. Don't. All these things are important. Especially when in a day and age there are 5 million photographers, and a lot of times there's someone who'll do it for less than you.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you make a great point. Get your stuff done on time or early if possible. Be ahead of, really show the bosses and stuff like that, the people who are expecting, defy their expectations, right? It's one thing to meet expectations, but if you can defy expectations, then you'll just make yourself so much more apparent as an asset to them. With regard to getting into the craft of photojournalism, because this was a question that was raised to me, mm-hmm. It's pretty straightforward. Take a camera, shoot, but also keep in mind how photojournalists shoot, and understand that the work of photojournalism isn't the taking the pictures. It's capturing the information for captions. That's the work that comes into photojournalism. Having to go up to your subject, get their name, get their background, get their information, make sure you're adding your metadata to your pictures, making your selects, and providing an organization, whether it be an agency or a newspaper or a website, whoever, with the exact details of the who, what, where, why, when that's going on in that photograph. If you shoot pretty photos all day and you don't get a background information, you don't talk to your subjects, if you can't get caption information, you're absolutely useless to anyone who might be interested in using your work because they have no context or understanding for that photograph. I know that there's some exceptions to that in certain events and whatnot where you can get away with that, or you can work, editors will sometimes, allow you to send, imagery that doesn't have caption on, they'll supply the captions later. Like, for instance, when I used to shoot sports photography, the imagery would go to the sports writers who know everybody, who knows the names and knows this terminology and knows exactly what the move they're doing is, and they would add that caption information, but be able to write a very comprehensive, well-written caption that, any sort of, again, like a small local paper to a large agency can use, because that's what you'll see. If you go anywhere and look on these agency websites or whatnot, or, what the military puts together, like dividshub.net, where they put the imagery out there, you have to have solid, informational, factually correct captions.
Right.
That's almost as important as having a good image, if not more so, because that's also how you archive and how you can research and look up the metadata. Make sure you have metadata for your imagery, good tags, be able to search your imagery. That's one of the things that I regret most in my life with regard to how I kind of raised up and shot my stuff, is I very rarely ever captioned my own personal work, or rarely ever put tags associated with it. So if I want to find a photograph that I shot from my 20 years archive, it'll be a nightmare unless I know exactly the date I shot it or the subject I shot.
Memory that you can recall anything. Photographic memory. What? No.
Yeah. Well, I do like for instance, Lightroom and some other platforms. They allow you to search your entire hard drive of stuff, but that takes a long time, especially if you're archiving. Like, I've got 20 terabytes of content, over my career. And so I just wish I had been more disciplined with regard to at least putting keywords associated with photographs. I did used to batch caption my work. So, I mean, if I shot something like an event, I would at least say like, this is a concert on this day at this time at this location. But what's actually helped me out a lot is Facebook. Because Facebook, I might just throw some image, or Instagram even, because you're essentially tagging and captioning your own work.
It's true.
So that's been a big boon, at least for finding stuff that I've shot in the past.
To Facebook to find, when did I shoot that, so I could find it back in my archive. It's like, I posted this on, 2015. That's when I need to look. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's been a boon. So thank you, Facebook and stuff, for the inadvertent helping out with,
That's Facebook's getting lately. We give you a little praise there.
Yeah, I know, right? And of course, I always like when Facebook reminds me of something I shot like 4 or 5 years ago, and be like, oh yeah, that was a nice shot. All right. Well, I think we're getting close to the end of our show. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Travis, about breaking in or anything like that we haven't had a chance to talk about? You want to make sure it gets across?
I as people have watched it, and I'm chairman of APA New York.
American great organization.
And we certainly are there for our members and networking, and also putting on workshops and benefits and stuff like that. So it's a great place to be encircled by other photographers if you have questions or need help or want to further your career and or knowledge. So reach out anytime, and you can direct me. I'm chairman at apanewyork.com. So I'm easy to reach, and if you have questions or if you would just follow up here, leave something in the comments, and always reach out for us if you have further things you want us to discuss or that you find that other podcasts aren't talking about that we'd love to talk about. So, get in touch with us. Let us know what you want to hear about.
Absolutely. Take nothing else from this show. Just know that Travis is easy to reach. Easy to. I'm sorry. Oh, I blinked there for a second. Yeah, and you break a break point, and I'll emphasize that. I'll piggyback off what you just said. APA is a great organization. NPPA is a great organization. There isn't a single there isn't a single subset genre of our work, our craft that doesn't have an organization probably that's associated with it. Join that organization, network. At minimum, try and find Facebook pages that you can at least dialogue with and communicate with, and start building that dialogue and gaining from the community. There's probably nobody that hasn't already done or lived or had that experience that you think you're going through and can be insightful for you. Doing this show has been a great insight to me because I learned so much from what people are saying about everything. I mean, if there's something you want to know about a specific aspect or area, search our archives. We've spoken to so many people from so many different lines of work. I'm sure that there's informational nuggets that you can gain from listening to our back catalog. It's searchable on our website, aroundthelens.com. Where you can also find all of our links to all our social media and all our fun stuff and our Patreon and everything like that. So yeah, that's my last bit of advice for you all today. If you found this advice helpful, if you've gotten stuff, I really want to get your dialogue. Comment on this story on Facebook, or comment on us, or email us. Really let us know what you think. The comments are the driving force of why we do this. So I really want to get your comments in terms of what you think, and I will respond, or Travis will respond. Somebody from the organization will get back to you and respond. We're definitely find that keeping in touch with and commenting and responding to comments is extremely important for building an audience. So we will do that for you. So again, if you have any follow-up questions for me, for Travis, for Zach, Ron, specifically about how we broke into our career fields, please don't hesitate to ask. Again, I like to think of Around the Lens as sort of a professional, visual journalism network forum for discussion like that. And
dealt with it as a support group.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just sometimes for the wrong reasons, right? Because of layoffs and stuff like that. But or maybe somebody who comes on the show or somebody who comes on the channel will see your question and be able to answer it for you. But I think that's going to end this week's show. Simple, short, tight info about what's going on in the world. And again, a reminder: this is the last show we're going to be doing I'm going to be doing in the United States. It's going to be interesting to see how we go forward from here, and I'm looking forward to the new adventure. And if you have any questions about Korea, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll give you my first-hand impressions. I'll be going through it. But anything else you'd like to add, Travis, before we sign off?
No, that was pretty good. The last thing is photographers need to support photographers, and that's the most important thing. Don't ever think like, oh, he's going to steal my job. It's like, we need to support each other and build up each other and have each other's backs, and that's what's going to make us more powerful and successful in this industry.
100%. Totally agree with you, Travis. All right, on that note, this has been Around the Lens, episode 180. I've been your host, David Jerry Murphy, for Travis Keys. We are out.
Thanks.
Outro play. Thanks for tuning into Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, go to aroundthelens.com for show notes from tonight's episode, as well as links to our Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. We're also always looking for new and exciting guests to feature on each show. So if you know somebody who might be interested, let them know.